We've got so much breaking news. Prosecutors are in their cross-examination phase, talking to defendant Zoe Rosenberg in the chicken rescue trial, a woman who could do literally 5 years behind bars for rescuing 4 chickens. A lot's happening. It's getting really intense because the prosecution wants to really highlight Zoe Rosenberg, the defendant's history of animal rights activism. So I'm going to go straight out to Matthew Zirbel, who is outside the courthouse. Yesterday was a crucial day. Can you bring us up to date? What happened yesterday, Matthew?
Yeah, Jane, yesterday we had a large series of more documents, mostly social media posts that the prosecution was trying to introduce, very clearly trying to make the trial heavily focused on Zoe's beliefs, Zoe's prior actions, many of which have very little relation, I think, to this open rescue case. And then we were able to get a little bit more of the cross-examination on Zoe about those documents. Now, a lot of them were posts about different actions she's done, different views she's had. A couple of them were posts about the Reichardt action or the Sunrise action. Those are the ones that the prosecution is probably the most interested in bringing in, especially the civil disobedience done at Reichardt. That's been mostly ruled to be excluded, the civil disobedience part, as Zoe was just part of, I believe, the rescue there.
Yeah, when you say Reichardt, a lot of people have no idea what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Sure, there was an action in, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 18, I think, where people went to Reichardt Duck Farm. There was a series of activists who rescued 31 ducks there, and separately activists, some activists locked themselves to some of the slaughter facility there. And one of the, I think it was a worker, turned it on while they were doing that, actually. And so police were, involved primarily for the civil disobedience part, because that's where people were locking down for longer. And that was one of the things that Wayne Shung previously was part of a trial for conspiracy to trespass there. And so they're trying to use those charges as a claim that Zoe should have known that this was not legal, the legal opinion regarding rescue. Of course, her argument is this was all for civil disobedience, whereas the action that she took was an open rescue, not part of civil disobedience.
So yes, thank you so much, Matthew, for bringing us up to date. We have attorney Justine Block with us, as well as Unchained TV host Lindsay Baker. Obviously, what is happening right now is a war. And we're going to let Matthew go and look for some people who might have also been in the courtroom to get their reaction to what's happening while we talk to you. Zoe Rosenberg is in her testifying phase, the cross-examination phase. And what the prosecutors want to do is they want to bring in her history of animal rights activism, which is extensive, and try to paint her as some kind of radical. Unfortunately, that could be extremely effective. We know that they're going to be allowed to bring in the issue of Zoe Rosenberg chaining herself to a basketball hoop during an NBA playoff game, but I don't know if they're going to be able to introduce the video. I'm going to play this news clip that basically outlines, fair use. We're just showing the news because this is the issue of the day. Will the jury see this? It's very dramatic, and it happened a few years ago, and Zoe was younger, but this is what happened. And then we'll discuss it on the other side. Will the jury see this? And if they do, what impact will it have?
She's chained herself to his stanchion. A little sleeper cell of chicken protesters. Is that a real chain? Is it plastic or is it metal? That thing looks like
I think it's metal. The ball crew. And now they get the chain off and they're carrying her off.
The people in Memphis have no idea what's going on right now.
All right, so that is extremely dramatic. Justine Block, our attorney today, if the jurors saw that, that would obviously have quite an impact. We know they're going to be able to learn about it, but we don't know if it's just going to be a still photo or if it's going to be that entire thing played. What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Jane. My thoughts are that the defense is doing the best job they can to argue that this would be highly prejudicial for the jury to see this. It's not relevant because it relates to civil disobedience, not a rescue case. And I hope the judge is swayed to rule in favor of the defense. It sounds as though he's inclined to let it in, though, based on what Matthews said. Maybe he hasn't decided yet, but it looks very prejudicial.
Yeah. What I understood, looking at the Purdue feed, that's what it's called, the Purdue Rescue Trial feed on X, is that he's letting that in, but we don't know if it's just a snapshot, which is one thing, but the video itself would be, it's very dramatic video, let's put it that way. And then if you have maybe basketball fans, right, who are members of the jury, they might be saying, well, gee, you know, why did she interrupt a basketball game? Now, she was objecting to one of the big executives' investments and, you know, what they're doing with their money. And we can't really get into that. I don't think the jury's going to hear anything about that. But what are your thoughts, Lindsay Baker?
Well, I'm just feeling like Justine is about it being highly prejudicial. And I'm wondering why the judge, if he's going to be fair, would allow that footage to play, yet not show footage that, like, of the slaughter line has restricted what the jury can see. I know they've seen some things, but not nearly what would really tell the story. And I think as far as the company's claim that this is agro-terrorism, that's just, to me, it's just shocking, because the real terrorism that's going on is happening to the animals. And that's what's trying to be brought forward here, the transparency, to let people know what's actually going on. I brought a friend with me to an event the other day. She's buying free-range chicken. I said, if you're going to buy it, save yourself the money, because let me show you the pictures of what your free-range chicken actually looks like. So if we're going to be, you know, showing years ago with a young person, we know when you're growing up, you may do things, maybe she wouldn't even do that now. Not to say that what she did wasn't justified, but I'm saying people change. Why are you going backwards? Let's talk about the issues that are right in front of us, like these animals flailing on the floor upside down that can't turn over.
Excellent points. I want to play what the Direct Action Everywhere communications lead, Cassie King, has said about this crucial moment. This trial has been going on for more than 20 days. I think we're in day 21. Frankly, I've kind of lost count. And this is the crucial moment. The defendant on the stand, she could go to prison for 5 years. She rescued 4 chickens. The question is she guilty of conspiracy? Let's take a look at her charges very briefly. Felony conspiracy. Is she guilty of trespass and vehicle tampering? She could do 5 years. The most serious count is the felony conspiracy. So the cross-examination of the defendant who is on the stand at this juncture, maybe not the second, but during this phase of the trial, is the key. Let's hear what the head of Direct Action Everywhere, of which Zoe is a member, an animal rights organization, has to say about where we're at.
Zoe is not yet done with cross-examination. She is going to continue tomorrow at 1:30. At 11 a.m. tomorrow, before the jury gets there, we're going to have argument on the video clips, because we only got through argument on the documents, photos of social media posts and things like that today. And some of those the judge exercised his discretion to exclude, but many of them are coming in. So the jury is going to see a lot of protests and other things that Zoe has participated in, which might not be much of a surprise since they already heard that she's so committed to animal rights and founded a sanctuary at the age of 11 and obviously cares deeply about protecting animals. But we haven't even really gotten into that, so I think this cross is going to continue for quite a while.
So I want to go back out to Matthew Zerbel at the scene. Is there anything else you can give us in terms of insight? So yes, they will hear about the basketball game, but at this point, we don't know if they're going to see that footage because, you know, that footage is, it's truly, you know, it's riveting, but it could really sway jurors. And remember, we've got a mostly male jury here. Unmute. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to say what the judge will allow. I think he's been excluding a good number of things. At the same time, every time that another file comes up, another video, another social media post, the defense lawyers have been asking, there is a limit here somewhere. The prosecution's case for why these are relevant is they want to say this is one publicity stunt in a series of publicity stunts. That's essentially their claim, is that they can bring these in because it goes to her bias, interest, or motive. And the one that they're specifically alleging is that this is a sort of publicity stunt, not really a rescue for the sake of the rescue. And we've seen that already in cross. They'll ask, usually, you know, they can't testify directly, but they'll start by saying, remember how in the defense, they opened by saying this was not a publicity stunt, this was a rescue. Let's go talk about things that you've done that are relevant to publicity. And that's very clearly the core argument they're trying to make. And so there is some amount that they get to bring that in, but the judge has not yet made a clear, definitive ruling about what constitutes too far, what is too much to be prejudicial to the jury. And so it's a bit unclear how much is going to let in, because every single instance of a social media post could in and of itself be relevant. But stacked with all of the series of social media posts we've seen already, the relevance of them kind of diminishes per social media post. And the judge has not made any clear statements about how much it diminishes versus what the prejudicial value is. And so I'm hopeful about excluding the video.
We've got some breaking news. I'm just hearing this from court observer Tiffany Brunelli. Zoe will not be testifying today. There is going to be more motions. There are going to be more motions outside of the jury's presence, back and forth, arguing about all this. Zoe's testimony will continue on Thursday in the morning at 10:30. Now, that is very significant to me. We thought we might have a verdict by Friday. And let me tell you something. Jurors resent it when they're left to have their lives on hold day after day after day. And this case involves 4 chickens with a net worth of $24 value, if they were healthy, which the defense says they were not. Now it appears that this trial is going to drag into next week. I want to go to Annie Abram. I know you've been a juror in the past. What would your reaction be if you were a juror right now being told, no, go home. You know, we're going to come back Thursday. We've got more arguments outside your presence.
It's very frustrating for a juror to be heading home and have extended periods of time for a case. And especially that it involves, as you said, 4 sick, injured, and dying chickens that add up to $24. We're not talking about an actual criminal. We're talking about an actual rescuer, a model citizen that everybody should admire and be the same. I would love to see a world filled with Zoes, and an exceptionally individual who puts the health and the safety of victims above her health, intelligent, caring, a model citizen, young lady who instead of going and partying and being selfish, here she is rescuing animals that are dying, injured, wounded, and she is being prosecuted. And I would be a jury to that. That would really, really be a very disgusting feeling for me. I would want to quit.
Let me say this. You're looking at video of the alleged crime, the rescue of these 4 chickens that the defense said are very sick, and they sent them to Carla Cabral, who is a vet tech, and she said that they were listless, they couldn't stand, they didn't want to eat. One had signs of a bacterial infection, another had an injured toe, but the company is saying that this is what you just saw. They are describing it as bordering on agro-terrorism. So I want to read the company side. A spokesperson for Petaluma Poultry issued a statement once Rosenberg's first day on the stand was concluded, saying this was a well-planned, deliberate breach of private property with the intent to steal, a criminal act that was deliberate, strategic, and bordering on corporate espionage or agro-terrorism. To show you how crucial this trial is for animal agriculture, the district attorney of the entire county that has to deal with myriad crimes, and her name is Carla Rodriguez. You see her face there. She was in the courtroom yesterday, and Zoe Rosenberg, the defendant, pointed out, my gosh, with undoubtedly a large county, serious crimes occurring where people's lives are at risk, why is this woman inside the courtroom watching my testimony? Because this case has put animal agriculture on trial. And you have 2 diametrically opposed characterizations of the same exact thing happening inside factory farms and slaughterhouses. You have the company saying, and we invite them on anytime, we would love to dialogue with them. You have them saying they have the highest standards. You see here, this is Purdue's website, no cages or crates. Then you have their website that has very deep explanations of their record on animal welfare, corporate.purdue-farms.com/responsibility/animal-care. I urge everyone, do your homework, go on, check it out. But those on this panel have pointed out, it says right here, no cages or crates, okay? And let's take a look at the actual video of the alleged crime in progress. What is Zoe Rosenberg doing? Lindsay Baker, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a crate right there. You know, in my eyes, that's a crate. And look how stuffed they are. Look at that poor chicken in the forest, the furthest away, how when she pulled it out, it put its head up like relief of being squashed down in there. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching to see this. And how do these companies think we're idiots? I mean, that's not a nice word to say, but do they think we're stupid? It's right in front of our very eyes. And you know what, Jane? I just looked up the term agro-terrorism, and it was originally coined by Homeland Security to describe acts of poisoning food supplies or bioterrorism, certainly not rescuing animals or filming cruelty. So right there, that term is extremely exaggerated and false.
And we invite the company on anytime. We would love to dialogue with them. They have an open invitation to come on UnchainedTV and appear on our panel. We would love to have conversations, because this is not about any one company, okay? This trial has become a battle over how we treat animals in industrialized animal agriculture. This trial is so important to the industry that they distributed this brochure, which is a glossy, looks like several pages, at least, well, it looks like at least 4 or maybe either side, but whatever. According to Direct Action Everywhere, this was widely distributed to thousands of citizens before jury selection. And it says, stand by Sonoma County's poultry workers. Now, that's an expensive glossy. Direct Action Everywhere said they reverse checked the photos, and they said some of them are from foreign countries, that they're not describing conditions within the institutions in Sonoma County. Again, I invite the industry, the company on anytime. But this is more what Direct Action Everywhere says they have uncovered when they've gone into these factory farms. You wanted to say something, Lindsay?
Just real quick, I wanted to say it's so clear that they don't expect people to check and see behind, what's behind the brochures. Is this really where these animals are kept, these free range animals? Or, to eat everything they say, they were so confident until now. And that's what's, throwing their world upside down, that people are actually finding out through broadcasts like this and all the other things that are going on.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is not the only animal rights trial happening in the world. There are some that are coming up in England. And believe it or not, I was contacted by some people in England to say, hey, how would you like to cover our trial? Which means that people globally are recognizing the value of having this discussion. And I want to tell you that the reason we're having this discussion and the reason Unchained TV, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, even exists, is that the mainstream media does not have this discussion. And why don't they have this discussion? Well, I can tell you, I was in mainstream media as a crime reporter for 37 years. I worked at CNN, I worked at Court TV, I worked at CBS, I worked at Disney. I worked at the biggest networks. And in general, the mainstream media is beholden to its advertisers. And what are the advertisers? Fast food and pharmaceuticals to a large degree. So nobody has to knock on your door and say, don't talk about this. They're not talking about it. They don't cover it. And so you have a situation where you have Direct Action Everywhere saying, wow, we tried to report this to law enforcement. They did not investigate. Years of reporting their allegations to law enforcement in Sonoma County without any investigation. The media only seems to cover it when somebody gets arrested. And that's the truth. I mean, when does the media cover this except for when there's criminal trials? And nonetheless, the prosecution is saying that everything that is being done here is a publicity stunt. And that's what Matthew said. Let me ask you a question. How many of you would be willing to go to prison for half a decade for a publicity stunt? Annie Abram, you do protests. Would you be willing for a publicity stunt to risk going to prison for half a decade?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No way I would consider going for even a day. Why would I want to do publicity stunt? The truth shall guide us. And I think people are starting to see everything is based. Animal agriculture, factory farms is based on misleading. The flyers that you showed us, Jane, the glossy ones, it didn't even say let's protect the factory farms. It said let's protect the workers. They mislead. Everything they do is very misleading. Every word they say is very well thought. They use compassionate word to appeal to people. And what they're doing is reflecting on Zoe as publicity stunt. All they do is publicity stunt, and it's based on lies and mislead, it seems to me. Consistently.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, because there's been some posts here, we just put them up. We don't encourage posts that are mean or cruel. We're about nonviolence. We're about kindness. So just as you post, and I love the fact that people are posting and sharing, let's be considerate of the fact that we don't want to, do not do unto others as we would not have them do unto us. That is the key to our movement. So we urge everybody to be kind in their statements. We're fighting cruelty societally, so we don't want to engage in cruelty in words or in actions. That's just something I'd like to put out there. Let's go back to Matthew. Matthew, what has been the reaction of the people who are there to support? I say there's, There were a couple of dozen there yesterday, according to a photograph I saw. What is the overall reaction? Optimism amongst those who support Zoe Rosenberg, or nervousness?
It's definitely a mix of both. I think, after hearing Zoe's direct, I just thought it was so well done how she was answering everything. I think she seemed really likable, really honest. I still think she does, for sure. And so I felt a lot of optimism there, and a lot of the other people joining me to support her did as well. I think as it gets into a really long list of social media posts that we're worried might bias the jury, that definitely dampens it a little bit. But so far, everything that the prosecution has brought up to Zoe, I think she's had really good responses to, really good ways of talking about it. Yesterday, she was able to get in a little bit when they were asking what she found, that she had seen documents indicating, I think it was 76 or 79 chickens had been boiled alive. And they struck that answer out for prior motions that said she's not allowed to talk about the contents of the documents, but the jury was at least able to hear it, even if it's not on the transcript. And so nervous for sure, but also feeling reasonably optimistic.
You raised such a good point. Yes, she did testify that she saw evidence of more than 70 chickens boiled alive. And this is something that the corporation hotly disputes. I shouldn't say hotly. The corporation disputes. But this is what she testified in court. And even though it was struck, the jury still heard it. What is your understanding, Justine, as an attorney of, when a jury is not supposed to consider something, but once it's out, you can't necessarily bottle it again?
Well, that's true. I think the bigger picture is Zoe's testimony has been very clear and concise. She was able to say why. She answered the why. And we've talked a lot about that in our panel discussions. So she could say about her specific intent was to rescue the sick and injured chickens, and she was concerned about public health concerns, not to injure the business. So the specific intent is what the defense is trying to narrow this to, versus the prosecution making this bigger and bigger about her beliefs, and now bringing in so-called publicity stunts and things like that. But remember that the defense is going to be able to redirect. So after the prosecution's done with their cross-examination, the jury remembers often what's last talked about. And it is a big deal that any animal cruelty evidence was allowed in. So even though it wasn't as much as what the defense requested, just to be able to talk about the boiled alive, even if it struck, is important, and any images of the animal cruelty. It is really hard to watch the images that you've shown us and that you're showing the viewers on the kill line and on the floor of the factory. And I just want to say I also agree with the statements that other panelists have made about the misleading statements by the industry. And your statement you showed the viewers, that recent news statement, there is language in there about the intent to steal. She's not being charged with theft. Let's keep that in mind. Remember, the theft charge was dropped.
Oh, so you're referring to the, okay, interesting. So you're referring to the Petaluma Poultry statement that this was a well-planned, deliberate breach of private property with intent to steal. That's what you're saying. Why do you think it's significant?
I think it's misleading because she's not being charged with theft. So she's not being charged with stealing. Remember, you brought up the $24 value. That's not an issue in this case because the theft charge was dropped, and she's being charged with trespass and felony conspiracy and tampering with a vehicle, not stealing.
One of the other things they tried to do in their attempts, the prosecution's attempts to say that this was a publicity stunt, was talk about the fact that she did a tour where she gave her side of the story. And we attended that tour, and I'm looking for the clip where she is talking about that and going around and basically giving her sense of why she did this to groups of people. We attended one, I believe this is this one, and I'm going to play it and then we can comment on the other side.
My name is Zoe Rosenberg. I am an animal cruelty investigator and animal rescuer with the Grassroots Animal Rights Network, Direct Action Everywhere, and I'm the founder of Happy Hen Animal Sanctuary in San Luis Obispo, California. We just found another chicken on the floor of this farm who is in critical condition. She's collapsed on the ground. She's unable to stand up on her own. You can see the other chickens have kind of run away from me, and she can't even stand up. So we're going to get her out of here as well and get her the veterinary care that she needs so that she can survive instead of slowly dying of dehydration on the floor of this farm where she can't even stand up to reach the water. I'm currently facing 1 felony and misdemeanors and up to 5.5 years in prison. I've been wearing an ankle monitor for over a year. And it's all because I rescued 4 criminally abused chickens. Their names are Poppy, Ivy, Aster, and Azalea.
So there's, as part of the tour, she did an interview with us. I can tell you that at the start of this trial, her ankle monitor was removed, which is certainly good news. But imagine walking around for more than 20 months with an ankle monitor, what that must be like. Let's go out to our just joined panelist, Michael Fujimori with the Captain Paul Watson Foundation. Your thoughts?
Well, I can say without question, having met Zoe 2017 at the Veg Fest Festival when she was giving a speech, that her intentions are totally for the animals. She actually has a sanctuary with her mother. So she knows the pain and suffering that goes on in the industry. And, you know, for them to say that it's a publicity stunt is just outrageous. And I think the jury, you know, by the way, I've served on 4 juries, 2 criminal, 2 civil. And I can tell you without a doubt that there's nothing that the jury wants to do more than have a short trial and go home. So the fact that the prosecution is dragging this out is going to be really detrimental to their case. And I think that at the end of the day that they are going to do the right thing.
Well, let me say this. We don't know whether they're going to be resentful of the prosecution or the defense. I personally, given that I know if I was a juror, well, the prosecution charged her. So in a sense, they're responsible. It would lean toward being irritated toward the prosecution, but that I'm bringing my personal biases, truth be told, to the situation. We don't know how this jury of 7 men and 5 women are going to react to the fact that they got ready today to go to court. And I think they may have already arrived in court, I would suspect. And then they were there and they said, no, go home. We're not going to have you hear testimony today. That's got to tick them off, Lindsay Baker.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about how these people that really have no invested interest in this. I mean, we're here. It's much less of an effort to come on every day on a Zoom call, or it's not Zoom, but you know what I'm saying. But they must be resenting it. And imagine how it's disrupting their lives. And they may just be looking at it as $24 in value, taxpayer dollars being wasted yet again. And I hope it's going to work in Zoe's favor. But as you say, there's no telling how this will go. It's really, if people are going to follow their moral compass or just stringently follow laws that have obviously been, favoring cruelty.
Let me say this. I think one of the reasons, Lindsay Baker and panel, that this is getting so stretched out is because it's one thing to say, oh, you did a protest at a basketball game. It's another thing entirely to show the video of her disrupting the NBA playoffs. And I think we should all take a very close look at this, because this is the crux of this news story today. They're battling over what video the prosecution can introduce in their cross-examination of Zoe Rosenberg to try to paint her as a radical. While of course the defendant is saying what's really radical is the fact that the world is killing 200 million chickens every day, 80 billion a year, 140,000 a minute, that's radical, that's extreme, not going in there and trying to show it. But because this video is very impactful, and I'm telling you it is, this is the news of the day. Let's watch it and answer.
She's chained herself to a stanchion, a little sleeper cell of chicken protesters. Is that a real chain? Is it plastic or is it metal? That thing looks like
I think it's metal. Ball crew. And now they get the chain off and they're carrying her off.
The people in Memphis have no idea what's going on right now.
We do not know if the jury's going to see that. Lindsay, what's your reaction? Unmute.
Just what he said, a sleepy little group of chicken protesters. It's like demeaning right there. And I know I may have seen this exact time because my husband's a big sports fan and he was annoyed. He goes, what are those people doing? That's not going to do, that's the way these people act because they think they pay for these tickets. And it's definitely calculated why they chose this particular piece of video to show. It's definitely calculated, and it shows how desperate they are.
Well, I didn't include the whole clip. I used as little as I could for fair use, just to establish the issue being debated in court. But if you watch the whole clip, they're laughing. They're joking. The announcers are literally laughing at this person, Zoe Rosenberg, the defendant. So that is a reflection of how society views chickens. People hear the word chicken, ha, ha, ha. Why? Because we've demonized chickens. When we call somebody a coward, what do we say? They're a chicken. And so that's what we in the animal rights movement call speciesist language. And people laugh when they hear that, but if you look back in history, what do they say? First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they get angry at you, and then they join you. I was just watching TV yesterday, and they were talking about another social justice movement. We won't discuss it because we're not political. We're just about this issue here. And they said the 3.5 rule, once 3.5% of the population gets involved in something, then it becomes a mass movement. The animal agriculture industry is fighting animal rights because we're creeping up on that 3.5%. Just today, there was breaking news that Beyond Meat stock skyrocketed 90%. Okay, a one-time penny stock skyrocketed 90%. Let me put this, because this relates. Beyond Meat stock skyrocketed 90% because it was added to a meme exchange traded fund, a meme ETF. Now, when Beyond Meat launched as a public company in 2019, I believe, it was one of the most successful IPOs in years. And it set off alarm bells in the meat industry. And they organized to declare war on veganism. They've created social media posts. The Guardian did a whole in-depth story on how they've created a master's in beef advocacy. basically recruiting thousands of people to go online and tout the importance of eating animals. And so veganism and the mainstream media has jumped in with both feet and done hit pieces to the point where Veg Media Watch has been created. Veg Media Watch on X, you can go to it, and points out these hit pieces. They just did it today, and I just commented today on a hit piece that was done by mainstream media against veganism. I urge everybody, go to Veg Media Watch and just repost and comment, because X is the platform that a lot of journalists use. And if you want to get to the journalists and their bosses, you can do it on X. And so, this is a war, a culture war that is ongoing right now. And so the fact that Beyond Meat, which their stock had dropped precipitously, is now going back up by 90%. That is a huge bellwether for the vegan movement. So just all that suffice to say that this is a culture war ongoing. And that is why this trial is so culturally significant. That is why the meat industry put out this brochure and distributed it across Sonoma County. Stand by Sonoma County's poultry workers, because the whole question is, what is extreme? Is it extreme to try to go in there, document what's happening behind closed doors and rescue animals? Or is it extreme what is being done with the industrialization of farming, where animals are produced en masse? This is why Unchained TV is calling for live cameras inside all California slaughterhouses and factory farms. And we have issued an editorial. You can read all about it on Unchained TV. Given that there are wild discrepancies in the descriptions of what's happening behind closed doors, with the company saying nothing to see here, everything is fine, there's high animal welfare standards, and the people who are criticizing are extremists with a radical agenda to end animal agriculture entirely, which they would agree with. That is their agenda, that they feel that it's not an essential industry. It's an industry that's destructive to the planet, contributing mightily to climate change, contributing to animal suffering, and contributing to health problems in the United States and globally. And so, which is it? This is why we are calling for cameras, live cameras broadcast to all citizens and consumers with no blind spots. Now, before anybody says, well, that's really extreme, guess what? Spain already requires slaughterhouse cameras. England already requires slaughterhouse cameras. Israel already requires slaughterhouse cameras. It's not that extreme. So what we do need is a member of the legislature to sponsor a bill to that effect. We'll see if that happens. I'm actually going to try to meet with somebody tomorrow. What do you think of that, Michael Fujimori?
Yeah, obviously that's a win-win situation, because the consumer will know what's going on behind the scenes, and the industry can say, "Whoa, there's nothing going on. We're not doing anything wrong here," and they can show it. They can prove it by the video. So that's why it makes sense, total sense, to do it. And the only reason they don't want to do it is because they don't want people to know what's going on behind the scenes.
And I mean, the question is, look, we can say that, I think, with certainty, and I'd like to get final thoughts from everybody because we're wrapping up our hour and this is a crucial day. We thought, there's no court tomorrow. Wednesday it starts. We're back Thursday with Zoe back on the stand and the jurors are coming back. So this trial is undoubtedly going to go into next week. I don't think they're going to be able to wrap everything up. And so imagine the jurors have to spend all weekend wondering, okay, my upcoming week is up in the air, as are all of us. I've already canceled doctor's appointments and all sorts of appointments that I was supposed to go to because of this trial being extended. So, you know, I want to get final thoughts from everybody, starting with Lindsay Baker. What are your thoughts about the length of this trial and the culture war that it is emblematic of?
I think it's the length of the trial, the fact that the district attorney was present, the fact that they're switching their strategy, the fact that they're bringing in footage that has nothing to do with the case shows that they are, in my opinion, on the run. They know they've been caught with their, you know, pants down, for lack of a better metaphor there. But I think we have to stay on top of this. I think change will come. I think what Zoe is doing is just admirable. And one more thing, if we do get that law on the ballots, we have to make sure it says that by a third party, because many times they'll hire people that will not tell the truth to be overseeing. They'll put the fox in charge of the hen house. Sorry for the sad metaphor, but you know what I'm saying. So I just wanted to add that we need that in the bill to make sure the transparency is there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we've got our attorney, Justine Block.
Thanks, Jane. As far as closing thoughts, I do recall seeing that the judge made comments yesterday that he was hoping to send the jury to deliberate by Friday. Given what we heard from Matthew earlier, it sounds like that will be delayed since they just missed the jury today. So that will go into next week. So it has dragged out, and big decision for the jury since they're in the middle of this culture war that you described. About the legislation that you're talking about, I think it would be helpful to hear what is going on in the other countries that have passed laws about cameras in the slaughterhouses. What are they doing with that footage? Is it being used to help prosecute animal cruelty cases? Secondly, on the images that we've been showing the viewers that we see from DXC, that shows to me, that's evidence of animal cruelty. And I still am not understanding why the authorities have not investigated the animal cruelty charges. It really says a lot to have the district attorney in the courtroom. It's a high profile case. Animal Ag is behind this. And so it remains to be seen, and it's in the hands of the jury soon.
Well, you've raised such an important point that I want to play a clip that this is not the only case where there have been reports of animal cruelty, allegations of animal cruelty that have been ignored, to the point where there's an entire social media campaign involving some of the past cases called Prosecute This.
Sonoma County District Attorney.
Instead of prosecuting rescuers and whistleblowers, prosecute this.
On November 2nd, a jury in Sonoma County, California, convicted Wayne Shung, the co-founder of Direct Action Everywhere, of 3 trespass charges associated with the rescue of sick and dying ducks and chickens in factory farms. Now, advocates around the world are asking why the Sonoma County District Attorney prosecuted a person who was lawfully helping desperate animals instead of the factory farmers engaging in criminal animal abuse. Here's what New Yorkers have to say about this miscarriage of justice.
Sonoma County District Attorney.
You have evidence of animals with painful injuries who are starving to death right now because they have no access to food and water.
Animals are being criminally abused at a duck farm in Petaluma.
What steps are you taking to investigate and stop the rampant criminal animal cruelty in your animal factories?
How can you ignore the horrific abuse of thousands of animals in your jurisdiction? Sonoma County District Attorney.
When will you stop looking the other way and prosecute this?
I'm appalled that you sent an animal rescuer to jail when all he did was try to help the victims who your office is neglecting.
Sonoma County District Attorney,
prosecute this.
Prosecute this. Prosecute this. Prosecute this. Prosecute this.
Prosecute this. Prosecute this.
So that was from their turn. That was from a previous case in which Wayne Shung, the co-founder of Direct Action Everywhere, was convicted. And that's very connected to this case because they're both members or were members of the same organization, Direct Action Everywhere. Wayne was the co-founder. And on the very day that he was sentenced and sent to jail, guess what they did? That was the very day that they arrested Zoe in this case. And that was way back in 2023. There she is arrested with Rocky Chow. But she is ultimately the only one who went on trial. And just like they did with Wayne, they didn't charge him with theft. Ultimately, they put him on trial for conspiracy. And that's exactly what they're doing with Zoe Rosenberg, putting her on trial for conspiracy. Let's continue on. Closing statements. Annie Abram.
Yes, excellent points. And they're trying to character demolish, or they're trying to destroy the character, the beautiful character of this beautiful individual who puts even her health, who has issues. I've worked with people who have health issues. They're sorry for themselves and they don't want to do anything. They want to focus on themselves. Yet we have an exemplary young lady who's young, who's beautiful, who's smart, who's capable, and who's sick, but puts every life that is suffering ahead of herself. So they want to demolish that characterization. They want to destroy that beautiful character to bring a question to the jury's mind. But also, I hope the jury will see the inconsistency of what they're representing, saying something, and they see the crates. They see the other inconsistencies and what they say something, but it's really much dimmer. It's abuse of animals. It's crates. It's, demolishing a beautiful character. So that's what I hope they see, and that's what the jury needs to prosecute the
All right.
criminals.
I think we have final. Did everybody get final thoughts?
Michael,
your final thoughts. Final argument.
This morning, I was talking to my father about this case, and I told him the facts of the trial, how, she's being prosecuted for rescuing 4 chickens. And I thought he would just say, yeah, whatever. But he was shocked. He could not believe it. He said, are you kidding me? I said, no. And my father is anything but an animal rights person. He's 97 years old. So if he can see through this circus of a trial and the complete insanity of bringing this poor girl on felony charges for stealing 4 chickens, then I think that's a very good sign moving forward.
Well, you mentioned something. We ran into a pop star by the name of Derek Green. He's actually globally famous, not so much in the United States, but Sepultura is a very, very big band in Brazil and around the world. We asked him what he thought of this case, and his reaction was very similar to your father's.
I think that's ridiculous that they would actually want to put somebody in jail for that. It doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of money, for everyone's money, and it's a waste of time. There's nothing criminal about that at all.
She could have taken a plea deal, but she decided to go to court.
Well, good for her. I think that's great, to stick up for your values and stick up for what you believe in. It's important to stand behind that, and as harsh as it can be or may be the outcome, I think it's really important that you have people that are going the extra mile to really show their views and their point of view.
All right. Well, listen, now it's time for my final argument. We're kind of using some trial phrases to make it interesting, but the reason I suggested and we did an editorial here at Unchained TV calling for live cameras inside slaughterhouses and factory farms is because, hey, you're prosecuting people who go in there and try to show what's going on, and you're saying it's agro-terrorism. Well, then are you saying that the general public has no right to know what's happening to these animals when there are animal cruelty laws, I don't think that's fair. So let's settle it once and for all. But unlike Spain and England and Israel, we're not just going to have the videos going to agencies. These videos, as somebody made a point of saying, need to be broadcast to the general public with no blind spots. No blind spots. And independently installed by a third party, so it can't be set up where you're only seeing nice pictures. We need to see all of it. And that's why I'm calling for live cameras inside slaughterhouses and factory farms throughout California. Of course, I'd love to see it across the United States, but this trial is happening here in California. California is the 5th largest economy of the world, and it's a very good place to start. Nobody could say it's too expensive. We all know how cheap surveillance cameras have gotten. Most of us have them either in our homes or in our yards now. And my gosh, I even have a furbo that follows my dogs when I go out to go shopping and leave them at home, and I can see exactly what they're doing and I can talk to them. So it's certainly not, so extreme anymore. It's something that's happening in, supermarkets and drugstores and department stores. It's very doable. And I would like to say that you can also be part of this by sharing out this video. If you are watching on social media of any kind, share it out. Unchained TV is a 501c3 nonprofit network run mostly by volunteers. I am a volunteer, and we do this because mainstream media is not covering this issue, the global battle over the culture war over industrialized animal agriculture that kills more than 80 billion animals every year, most of them chickens. If you see here, chickens are by far overwhelmingly the largest number of animals killed. Indeed, if people stopped eating chicken, the number of animals killed for food would just catapult downward. It would collapse, and with it, the entire animal agriculture industry. And it's something that at Unchained TV, we say we need to look at, because animal agriculture is a leading cause of the climate crisis. And that's something, again, the mainstream media doesn't talk about. They only talk about fossil fuels. Well, methane is produced by animals, and methane is a leading contributor to animal agriculture. So if only for our own survival as a species, we need to look at this issue. So I'm urging everybody, share out, download the Unchained TV app. You can get it on your phone. You just go to Unchained TV in your app store. It's completely free. You can watch online at unchained.tv, and you can also get it on your Amazon Fire Stick, your Apple devices, your Roku devices. It is a streaming network. So I urge everybody, we are using the format of Court TV and of CNN Headline News and all these places that cover criminal trials. We're doing panel discussions with a reporter live at the scene, but we do not have their reach. We need you to participate, share out this video, and that way we can reach the general public, because this is a very, very crucial issue. We will be back here Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific as the trial resumes with Zoe Rosenberg, the defendant, on the stand. Thank you, panelists.
Thank
See you next